tears family apart and burial of accident victim is put on hold.
Ni juu ya director wa culture kuandikia immigration ya Kenya, kuambia ya kwamba kuna hawa watu wanataka kuja kufanya mambo yao ya culture in this country.
And what Cabinet Secretary Rashid Echesa knows about Pakistani dancers declared persona non grata.
Please, I'm not the man in charge of immigration.
Blame game in government in a case of suspected human trafficking.
NTV Weekend Edition with Zainab Ismail.
We're glad you could join us. My sign language co-pilot this evening is Flora Atieno. Now tonight, we begin with politics, and Jubilee Party Vice Chairperson David Murathe has resigned from the position. Murathe says it was no longer tenable to continue serving the party, yet he does not believe in William Ruto as a candidate for the presidency. And as those opposed to DP Ruto keep the fight to block his candidature, his defenders are daring Murathe to head to the Supreme Court as earlier indicated. And of his political affairs, Kennedy Mureithi will that report, and of course we'll be having it in just a few minutes. But before that, from politics to another issue that is going to dominate this year: corruption. Major cases involving theft of billions of shillings of taxpayers' money resume this month. Now, Director of Public Prosecution Nurdin Haji faces a fierce battle with lawyers lining up to defend graft suspects and a judiciary that he feels is not acting fair. And TV's Seth Olale looks at what else lies in wait for the office of the DPP and the hurdles it must overcome to deliver on its mandate.
Over 100 public servants implicated in graft cases returned to court this month. The hearing of the NYS case involving 35 suspects, led by former Principal Secretary Youth Affairs Lilian Omolo, is among the cases expected to resume, and the DPP has lined up 43 witnesses.
We've really not had a fight against corruption going in the history of this country. And what we are going through now is there seems to be some political will to get some things done.
The other graft cases lined up between January and March 2019 include that involving former Kenya Pipeline Managing Director Joe Sang and 26 others. The case revolves around theft of 2 billion shillings. Also expected in court is Agriculture Principal Secretary Richard Lesi Yampe and Managing Director, National Cereals and Produce Board. The case involves loss of 1.9 billion shillings in irregular purchase of maize. The National Health Insurance Fund's 1 billion shillings scandal that involved fictitious transactions and irregular award of tenders is another case awaiting hearing. The scandal implicated the insurer's CEO Geoffrey Mwangi and Finance Director Wilbert Kurgat.
Yeah.
There's also the 419 million shillings Kenya Power scandal that saw Managing Director Ken Tarus, his predecessor Ben Chumo, and 9 senior managers charged with various offences relating to economic crimes. The alleged 221 million shillings Kenya Railway scam that led to the arrest and prosecution of National Lands Commission Chairman Muhammad Swazuri and Kenya Railway's Managing Director Atanas Maina, alongside 16 others, for conspiracy to defraud the government through fraudulent compensation scheme involving the Standard Gauge Railway.
And it is in the public interest that criminal proceedings should be preferred.
And as the DPP works round the clock to ensure he has watertight evidence to get convictions, he has raised the alarm over the manner in which some judicial officers are handling graft cases. These claims are backed by the president.
Kenyan spirits are dampened when we witness suspects released on ridiculously low bail terms, interference in legislative processes, and the use of the court process to delay justice.
Now I'm being labeled the high priest of corruption. If that's what it means, I take that title with no reservations. I will defend my officers when they are unfairly being criticized. I will deal with those who are involved in in corruption.
Professionals have a role to play in the fight against corruption, but we also know that professionals are a problem.
The Law Society of Kenya, which had its representative in the influential Judicial Service Commission, Professor Tom Ojenda, arrested and prosecuted over the alleged Mumia scandal, is the latest opposition the DPP is facing.
This is the epitome of impunity. There are certain organs within the government of the Republic of Kenya that are hell-bent on ensuring that they do not comply with the law.
It's a systemic problem because we have not quite worked out a system that is dispassionate about, law enforcement. One that looks at the objectivity of the facts and the law to determine the guilt or the innocence of an accused person.
With the Director of Public Prosecution, Nurdin Haji, together with his DCI counterpart, George Kinoting, vowing to step up the fight against corruption, 2019 appears to be a busy year for the courts, with Chief Justice David Maraga expected to increase the number of magistrates to deal with the increasing number of graft cases. Seth Olale, NTV, Nairobi.
All right, and we go back to our top story tonight, where Jubilee Party Vice Chairperson David Murathe has resigned from the position. Murathe says it was no longer tenable to continue serving the party, yet he does not believe in a William Ruto candidature for the presidency. And as those opposed to DP Ruto keep up the fight to block his candidature, his defenders are daring Murathe to head to the Supreme Court, as earlier indicated. NTV's political affairs reporter Kennedy Mureithi has the details.
As succession politics take shape in the country with expected realignments ahead of the 2022 elections, two men are emerging as the face of a team that is keen on blocking Deputy President William Ruto from becoming president. KOTU Secretary General Francis Atwoli and now immediate former Jubilee Party Vice Chairperson David Murathe. In the recent past, they have amplified their calls to have DP Ruto retire in 2022 together with President Uhuru Kenyatta, arguing that theirs was a shared presidency.
If he became a president, he will support grabbing, he will support interfering with the institutions, he will not be pro-workers. Yeah, he is a man who is for himself, full of himself, and a lot of people will suffer in the process. And he has also, he harbors hate.
A lot of people who are wondering if they can behave the way he's behaving when he's number two, they are worried how he would behave if then he ascends to number one. There are so many issues of corruption and whatever which follow him all over.
So committed to the cause is Murathe that he has quit the Jubilee Party Vice Chairmanship to team up with like-minded leaders in preaching the anti-Ruto gospel.
I have left the position. I have not left Jubilee, but if a new formation attracts us, we are free people.
In Jubilee, it is not only Murathe. There are hundreds and hundreds of Murathes inside Jubilee and outside Jubilee who are sharing the same opinion with me.
But as Murathe remains adamant about his going to the Supreme Court to block Ruto from the presidency, the DP's lieutenants have said they are bracing for a battle that will be messy.
I would not have a problem with anybody going to court to try to stop the deputy president standing for presidency, because that's their constitutional right. The only thing we'll assure them is that we will robustly be there.
Let brokers continue brokering. Those who are economic brokers, brokering the Chinese, let them continue brokering the Chinese. But we've only prayed for them that when they broker the Chinese and they have enough to eat, please do not come to vomit on innocent, hungry Kenyans.
The individual decision out there must be left to the individual. And citizens of this republic are clever enough to know what the Constitution does and say.
The recent onslaught against Deputy President William Ruto and his 2022 presidential bid is what most in the political class and political pundits argue will inform the debate ahead of the 2022 elections, where most believe that a formation is coming and will be based on the referendum that is most likely going to happen this year or next year. Kennedy Mureithi, NTV in Nairobi County.
All right, now, who let in the 9 Pakistani and 1 Indian female dancers who were kicked out of the country yesterday? Well, Sports and Culture CS Rashid Echesa now says it was not him, denying involvement in human trafficking. And as Charity Mwangi now reports, the CS says travel plans for the girls were made by the Director of Culture upon getting a request from the people he failed to name.
A day after the presence of 9 Pakistani girls and 1 Indian in the country was made public, and the controversial expression of their culture at the Bale Bale Club in Parklands hit the spotlight, the man at the center of the alleged case of human trafficking, Sports and Culture Cabinet Secretary Rashid Echesa, boldly explained his association with the girls.
Mimi ni waziri wa michezo jameni. Watu wakitaka kuja kufanya mambo yao ya kitamaduni katika nchi ya Kenya, wao wanapita kwa department yangu ya culture, na ni juu ya director wa culture kuandikia immigration ya Kenya, kuambia ya kwamba kuna hawa watu wanataka kuja kufanya mambo yao ya culture in this country. It is upon the immigration of this country to vet those people, to do their due diligence, and find out whether those people are fit to be in this country.
Echesa maintained that the girls are not known to him, but his office acted in accordance with its mandate to allow for the cultural expression of the residents of Kenya and providing for possible collaboration with other countries in the expression of the same, a duty that was seemingly misunderstood by his critics.
Wakora wanatembea hapa ndani, wamejaza maneno kwa magazeti. Oh, waziri aliingiza watu hapa, sijui waziri anafanya human trafficking. Please, I'm not the man in charge of immigration.
Though the girls have since been deported, the CS maintains that their presence in the country was legal.
The said culprits, they were in this country legally because it has been said that they had permits to be in the country.
The CS sent a strong message to those he termed as peddlers of lies, unafraid of zeroing in on one such critic.
And I want to tell Mzee Atuoli, you seem not to be conversed with the issues to do with immigration and culture as well. Kindly get your facts right before you peddle lies to Kenyans.
Charity Mwangi, NTV.
All right, and away from that, more than 36,000 transfers of Form 1 students have been approved by the Ministry of Education ahead of their reporting date beginning tomorrow. All transfers and admissions were done through the National Education Management Information System, that is NEMIS. Tomorrow, when Form 1 students report, they will present their admission letters and verification of existence in the system. Then, using a smartphone or computer, the principal or delegated person logs onto the NEMIS portal, goes to the tab Learner. Then they're supposed to click on the option Admit or Process Request. After completing that, they are supposed to enter the index number or unique student identification number on search, which is UPI or index on the click search. Details of the students will then appear, indicating that the student is selected to join the school. Well, if the student is selected for the specific school, then the next move will be, which should be to admit the student. And after the student then can proceed for processing in other steps of admission. A point to note is that admission can only succeed if the learner is in the system account of the school. In the meantime, school heads are advised to download and print their selection lists from NEMIS in readiness for the exercise. This will act as a backup plan in case of connectivity challenges. Where internet interruption is experienced, the school should use the list and later follow the steps. Let's just listen in to the National Chair of the Kenya Secondary School Heads Association, Ndimuli Hai, briefly explaining how exactly NEMIS works.
This is the dialogue they will get.
Okay.
So you put your username. For me, for example, it will be that. So it gives us this dialog box.
Okay.
Okay. Then I come to learners. I want to submit a request. Okay. So I plug there. Then I come and input an index number. You can read for me this index number.
458.
458.
011.
011.
27.
27.
017.
017.
Yeah.
So I search. It tells me that this student is in Nairobi school.
Okay.
Okay. So this student has placed a request to Machako school. So I say accept placement. So I put information, who is requesting, right? Let me, with due respect to the director, I'll use him. I say Kibet, okay? His ID number, let's just use his name, Kibet. His mobile number, you can give it to me. 0722
348
348
151.
151.
Yeah.
Okay. Which request number? Maybe is the first case I'm doing. So number 1, apply.
Okay.
So it brings information. It tells me the parent or guardians not captured properly, those details. The candidate has been processed for admission in Nairobi school. So it means this student was in a school elsewhere, placed a request in Nairobi school, placed a request in Machako school. You see? So Nairobi school happened to have placed the request for him to go there earlier than Machako school. So he was taken to Nairobi school. When the principal Machako school comes to place the request again, he's told the candidate has been processed for admission in Nairobi school. From those approved cases, you can now inform the parent to go and download the letter from now the ministry website. The parent cannot access NEMIS because they don't have the password and they don't have the username.
Now to health matters, and persons holding medical cards from Madison Insurance will no longer be able to access branded medicines. The insurance company has instructed doctors to prescribe generic drugs only, a move doctors have said is tantamount to tying their hands.
A visit to the hospital is one that many would rather skip, but in some circumstances it is unavoidable, and so many Kenyans have in the recent past tried to cover their financial blindsides, if only to be prepared whenever illnesses strike.
Everybody reacts to medication differently, and so an insurance company cannot give this kind of direction to a prescriber, because the doctors use clinical judgment and they do everything in the best interest of the patient.
Insurance covers are no longer a luxury, but rather a necessity whose importance is realized whenever one is forced to seek medical advice. But that freedom may soon be limited now that insurance companies are seeking ways to cut down on the expenses that original medication attract.
They're going overboard in trying to predetermine clinical decisions for patients. But at the end of the day, the clinicians will make decisions in the best interest of the patient rather than in the best interest of an insurer. That is not likely to change. The doctors have been well trained on this matter, and they will do the right thing.
Madison General Insurance decision not to cover the cost of branded medicine is being seen as tying doctors' hands, and medics are not happy. Madison Insurance has asked doctors and caregivers to provide education to insured members on the effectiveness of generic drugs. This may seem as though it is in anticipation of possible resistance from their customers. Charity Mwangi, NTV.
Now, detectives in Mombasa have arrested a fourth suspect linked to the murder of former Kilifi County Governor Kenneth Kamto. The suspect was arrested today evening at the Kwabolo area in Nyali by officers from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations Homicide Unit. A pistol was recovered from the suspect at his hideout. The arrest comes 2 days after 3 others were nabbed and a mobile phone said to have been stolen from Kamto's house. Girl on the eve of Jamhuri Day last year recovered. The 3 were escorted to Shanzu courts, where investigators were allowed to detain them for a further 14 days in order to complete interrogations. The former deputy governor was shot 3 times in his sitting room by unknown gunmen at his Nyali residence in Mombasa. All right, and that report there, we're going to take a very short break here on NTV Weekend Edition. We still have a lot lined up for you. Let's take a break. We'll be back. Welcome back and thank you so much for staying with us. Now, business was temporarily paralyzed at the Molo Sub-County mortuary following a dispute amongst family members of the late Patrick Thiongo, who died in an accident last week. The burial was stopped on suspicion that the deceased family was trying to strip the man's wife of her right as the legal heir and custodian of his estate.
The gates at the Molo Sub-County Hospital mortuary remained closed owing to the drama that was happening outside. The family of Veronica Thiongo, alleged wife of the deceased Patrick Thiongo, unrelenting over their right in the process, a right that they say their in-laws were trying to infringe upon.
Kwanza maombolezi watu wakuji, watuambii Kenya kinaendelea huko mbele. Sasa tumekaa kwa giza. Tumekaa kwa giza siku hizo zote tukigojea mashishi. Kumbe masisi imepangwa.
Umeolewa, umezaa na mtu, umeishi na yeye miaka yote. Kwa wakati alikuwa uhai, familia inakujua. Lakini akiaga inakuwa sasa amekuwa akiaga na kuna kitu yenye inaonekana itapatikana, anakuwa sasa ni wa mzazi. Mbona huyo mzazi yako anaishi na mtoto wake hata wakati alikuwa hai? Na wao watoto wenye tunazaa na hao wazee wenye wanatuoa, tutapeleka wapi hao wazee wakikufa?
Veronica had just recovered from the shock of witnessing the death of her husband when he was ran over by a vehicle. Unknown to her, her in-laws soon embarked on a plot that she says would affect her life and that of her 3 children.
Baskari walisema mimi nichukue ile kitambulisho na ile kitu ya hiyo karatasi sasa. Hiyo fami hiyo niende na sasa hiyo mimi nitakaa nayo. Kukuja hapa sijui nini kumeendelea. Imeandikwa ikapewa mama kitambulisho nikanyaganywa, iko sasa na kila kitu iko na huyo mama. Mama huyo kijana akisema mimi sio bibi yake, mimi niko na hiyo watoto.
Vijana wetu hawatakuwa wakioa, juu mzazi ndio amemnyang'anya mpaka hivi vitambulisho na kila kitu.
Unless tuambiwe kwenye venye huyu mama mwenye amebaki na watoto wake kwenye wataenda na venye watasaidika hatazikwa.
It is alleged that all this is on account of the insurance money due to the bereaved family. Efforts to calm the situation were unsuccessful as neither side was willing to yield. The body now remains at the Molo Hospital mortuary with no indication of a truce between the two squabbling sides. Charity Mwangi, NTV.
Now, Education Cabinet Secretary Amina Mohammed has confirmed that there were no casualties at the Ngara Girls High School after one of the dormitories caught fire last evening. Property of unknown value was lost in the incident.
At around 6:30 p.m., fire broke out in Emerald Dormitory at Ngara Girls High School, Nairobi. The news prompted anxious parents to mill around the gate, trying to get information on the well-being of their girls. But no one will be let in. And this was for the security of the girls.
What I'm going to appeal to our parents for is to allow the school to continue with its business. Yeah, you have ways of communicating with the principal. She's going to continuously send you messages. It will be very difficult for us to allow anybody to go into the school right now. First of all, it's at night. We don't have adequate lighting there. We cannot verify who the parents are, and if all of you are parents.
All the girls sleeping in the dormitory that used to house over 100 students were marked safe as they were in their classes for evening prep.
No child was in the dormitory. Thank God, yes, thank God. So none of them was in the dormitory. The fire was immediately contained by neighbors, by the fire brigade that is with us. The director is here with us. Yes.
Property of unknown value was lost in the inferno. Nairobi County firefighters contained the fire in the dormitory. The girls who lost their belongings have been accommodated in other dormitories. Investigations into the incident is ongoing. Sharon Baranga, NTV.
Now, a family in Sirise constituency, Bungoma County, was overcome with grief as it laid to rest its 3 members who perished in a tragic road accident along the Malaba-Kandui highway. The pain of the family was compounded further when supporters of the 2 local politicians who attended the funeral clashed, momentarily disrupting the function.
Vincent Wekesa lost 3 children in the tragic accident. He led hundreds of mourners in paying their last respects at his home in Mafungu area, Sirisia constituency in Bungoma County. The 3, Maximilian Wekesa, Lynette Wekesa and Sam Wekesa, were involved in a fatal road accident along the Malaba-Kandui highway. Lynette Wekesa, who was the eldest of the 3, was an employee of the National Youth Service. Maximilian Wekesa also died at the same hospital due to severe bleeding. Sam Wekesa, who was the youngest and 4th-year student at Kenyatta University, died at Moi Referral Hospital, Eldoret.
Nilikuwa naambia mama, tutasimama. Kila siku mimi nimekuwa very strong, lakini leo nimekuwa the weakest.
Akanipa ndugu ambaye alikuwa rafiki yangu wa karibu sana, alikuwa motivation. Tulikuwa tunafanya mambo kama pacha.
Kitu ambacho kilinishangaza ni kwamba hawa watoto wakaanza kucheza mbele yetu. Ule wa msichana mkubwa alienda tu kwa kifua cha kukaa wake kila mara.
The funeral proceedings turned chaotic after supporters of the incumbent Member of Parliament, John Waluke, and an aspirant MP, Moses Nandalwe, shamelessly clashed in front of the grieving mourners.
Security, please! Security, please! Security, please! I want this. Hatuwezi kuruhusu nyinyi kuleta hapa sarakasi na sisi tunaumia.
The 3 were later laid to rest in an emotional send-off witnessed by close family members. Seth Olale, NTV.
Quite unfortunate incident. Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta has sent his condolences following the death of Professor Abel Gitau Mugenda. He died yesterday after a short illness. The late Professor Abel Mugenda is husband to Professor Olive Mwihaki Mugenda, former Kenyatta University Vice-Chancellor and a member of the Judicial Service Commission. The President described the late professor as a distinguished scholar and a true patriot who committed himself to serving the country through his skills, knowledge and talent, despite his great achievements and exposure to opportunities outside Kenya. Professor Mugenda worked with the United Nations and several international non-governmental organizations as a researcher and a monitoring and evaluation specialist. He has authored several books in research methods. And may his soul rest in eternal peace. Let's take another short break here on NTV Weekend Edition. We still have a lot lined up for you. You want to stay tuned.
Sporty Bet. You love sporty.
right, thank you so much for staying with us. You're watching NTV Weekend Edition. Now, 4 people were killed by a mob in Utawala Estate in Nairobi after what is alleged to be an attempt to break into a home in the area. Their presence at the gate was discovered by the owners, who raised an alarm, attracting the attention of the neighbors. The neighbors pursued the alleged thieves, whose vehicle lost control and ended up in a ditch. The area residents would then descend on them, ending their lives. The residents have raised concern about the poor state of security and the increased levels of criminal activity in the area.
Wakakata, kuna ile hoa naingiza mkono funguo nini, wakakata hiyo mabati, wakakata padlock. Wakamanage kuingia, lakini sasa ikawa hawezi ingia kwa main house. So wao walipoona kumedhuka, watoto wangu wakaweka alarm. Baada ya alarm ndio jamaa akakimbia. So is a good neighbor yuko hapo, akawafuata na gari yake. Mpaka Astro wakazunguka mpaka wakaja kulandi hapa, wamekuja kuanguka. Otherwise hawako manage kubeba kitu.
We need security around this area. Every day we are walking in fear. We need security around here.
Now, many teenagers aged 16 and in primary school will typically be preoccupied by their studies and solely relying on their parents for provision of basic needs. But a standard 8 pupil at Chepkongi Primary School in Kapseret within Uasin Gishu County has won the hearts of many villages and boda operators due to his mastery of repairing malfunctioning motorcycles. Our reporter Gabriel Kudaka visited his home in Kaptinga village and brings you the following report.
Lamek Kimutai is not your ordinary class 8 pupil. At just 16, he is already an expert in repairing malfunctional motorcycles and bicycles, an art he undertakes with precision. Armed with his tools of trade, he carefully unpacks a motorcycle engine, ready to sort out the hitch. He developed an interest in mechanics at the age of 4.
Kutengeneza baiskeli na kuja bolbolo na kutengeneza pikipiki. Hivi juzi nilikuwa natoa kwa msi. Alikuwa akitengeneza na mwana.
His mastery of skills has endeared him to many who flock his father's homestead to seek his expertise. And one after another, they stream in with their faulty motorbikes.
Hii pikipiki nilinunua ikiwa mpya 2010. Baada ya miaka 5 hivi nanisumbua kiasi, nikiwa napeleka mahali narudisha tena inanisumbua. Nikarudi hapa wakati mmoja, huyu kijana mdogo huyu akanifungulia. Sikuwa naamini hata anaweza fanya. Nikadharau sana, nikamwambia uwezi, wewe wacha tu nipeleke penye nilikuwa napeleka.
The competency-based curriculum emphasizes the need to nurture talents besides excelling in academics. His neighbors are now calling on the government to nurture such talents.
Wakiwa kijana mdogo wameanza tengeneza mambo mengi. Na tunaomba serikali yetu ya Kenya kama ataona vijana kama hawa na wako na talent, tafadhali kwa hisani hawasaidie. Manake tutapunguza mzigo mingi.
Kimutai's rare talent is a blessing to his family, quite economically, since he can repair up to 15 motorbikes in a day. Charges range from 50 to 400 shillings, depending on the nature of the problem.
Wakikuja, wapate mimi nikiwa, wanakimbilia kijana, kwa vile wanafurahia huduma yake.
Like an engineer that he is, Kimutai always strives to maintain a balance between his studies and his passion.
Weekend naanza kufanya pikipiki asubuhi mpaka jioni. Alafu usiku naanza kusoma.
His primary school teacher is full of praise for him.
He's a very polite boy. Hana matatizo mingi. And we don't have problems with him. He's always very committed.
When there is a lot of work, his mother, who is also a fundi, steps in. Lamek, who has won the hearts and minds of many in Kaptinga village, would like to take his dream to the next level and become a professional engineer. Gabriel Kudaka, NTV.
Well, thank you so much, Gabriel, for that report, and quite an inspiration for such a young man, a bright future ahead. Let's take a break. We'll be back with more. Thank you for staying with us. Now, what's your dream for your community? Often, many of us focus on personal goals, forgetting that at times those goals are best achieved when we impact our own communities. Well, Helen Aura posed this question to a cross-section of Kenyans, and their answers were as varied as their dreams.
As Kenya strives to achieve sustainable development goals, we took to the streets to find out, given an opportunity, what would Kenyans do to impact their communities?
The thing I would like to do is build greenhouses for the youth. The youth are very active. They would be very interested. They like a new experience. And I think greenhouses can help them grow things like capsicum, the green pepper.
Kitu cha kwanza kabisa ningehakikisha kwamba kuna access road ambayo gari inaweza ikaingia kwa haraka na ikaweza kutoka kwa haraka. Hiyo ndio kitu ambayo first priority ningeweza kuangalia hiyo barabara. Na second ningehakikisha kwamba umeme unakaa pale ndio unaleta maendeleo mengine, hata maji kikuja mtu anaweza supply kila kitu akafanya hata irrigation.
I'd concentrate more on youth empowerment and development by creating jobs and actually art centers and various centers that are going to develop the talents of the youth in order for them to, stop these things such as drug abuse, theft.
Ningejitoa kwa ajili ya kusaidia mayatima, maana watoto wengi katika ule mtaa kule kwetu hawasomi, wanateseka, wana ukame, hawana chakula.
Apart from sports, I think the only other thing ni self-help groups, and we will go far. We can do tents, we can do boda boda. Let's have circles.
Nisaidie vijana kwa kufungua ufugaji kama vile wa kuku na biashara pia kama ya kuuza mayai.
I will look at the sector that will bring a positive impact towards the community. For example, I'll look at the agricultural sector, whereby I can take the money and invest it in a project that will bring an impact within a short duration and also change the lives of the people within the place where I'm coming from.
Empower the street children. They can be empowered in such a way that they can enrich our society one way or another.
Vijana, we have the talent, so like to empower those talent. The resource center na have the studios and stuff inaweza saidia sana.
Kenyans are hopeful people and ambitious as well. Their hope is that the economic hardships will ease to enable them to achieve their goals and dreams for their communities. Helen Aura, NTV.
Thank you so much, Helen Aura, for that. Now, Wajir East Member of Parliament Rashid Kasim Amin has been asked to apologize to Central Kenya community for referring to the region as Jiga infested. His remarks were prompted after Gatundu South MP Moses Kuria called for use of biometric technology to ensure a credible population census this year. Ahadi Kenya CEO Stanley Kamau has termed the statement as such as divisive and demeaning to the residents and victims of Jiga infestation, adding that no one should be allowed to classify a region or tribe based on the problem they're facing. Kamau said Jigas was not only a menace in Central Kenya, but in many parts of the country.
You are stigmatizing the people who are already infested, who are already poor, and they need to be encouraged that Jigas is not a disability. It's just a condition that can be improved and people can actually be rehabilitated and get back to work. So those kind of utterances are actually meant to divide this region into the diseases or other weaknesses they suffer from.
All right, now we're going to take a break. When we come back, I will be bringing you all the stories that made headlines in the world of sports. Don't miss that.
It starts with a dream.
By Mathare United at Kasarani. The stalemate was one of the 8 results in today's Kenya Premier League in games played across the country. Ida Waringa was there to check out the action and filed the following report.
New Gor Mahia signing Dennis Oliech, also known as Kajole, was the main attraction as Kenyan Premier League leaders Mathare United were held to a 1-1 draw by defending champions Gor Mahia at the Moi International Sports Complex Kasarani with goals on either side of half-time. Kogalo took the lead in the 34th minute when Mathare goalkeeper Alan Oyeny brought down Gor's Lawrence Juma in the box and Jacques Tuisenge stepped up to convert from the spot. The Slum Boys equalized 11 minutes after the break, 2011 KPL Player of the Year Kevin Kimani shooting in a penalty awarded after defender James Situma had been fouled inside the box. And so the game would end on a stalemate, Gor coach Hassan Oktay ruining his side's numerous missed chances to secure all 3 points.
This is the 3rd game I've been in charge. We've been creating a lot of chances and we don't take it. When you don't take it, it's a problem.
Mathare coach Francis Kimanzi, however, remained defiant in the face of the palpable buzz surrounding his opponent's new signing.
Ilikuwa tu nafikiria ni psychological thing, wajaribu kidogo kudisturb vijana wangu akili, lakini nafikiria we had prepared them mentally well, yeah? That we don't care who plays, but they play against Mathare United.
Meanwhile, KCB came from a goal down to manage a point against Kariobangi Sharks in a 1-1 draw at the Kenyatta Stadium in Machakos. Kariobangi's Vincent Wasambu broke the deadlock when he found the net in the 49th minute, but the Bankers' Benson Amianda equalized to deny Sharks all 3 points. In the day's other games, Nzoia Sugar scored in the second half to cancel out Brian Marita's opener for AFC Leopards as both teams shared the spoils in a 1-1 draw. Vihiga United and Mount Kenya drew at Buhungu 1-1 as Posta Rangers beat Kakamega Homeboys 1-0 away at the same venue. Bandari pipped Sony Sugar 2-1 at Mbaraki to move up to 4th on the log. Ulinzi and Zukericho played out to a barren draw in Afraha Stadium, Nakuru, and Western Stima edged Chemelil 1-0 away. Aido Warenga, NTV.
Now, Pep Guardiola registered his biggest win in charge of Manchester City as the Premier League defending champions demolished championship strugglers Rotherham 7-0 in the FA Cup third round. Raheem Sterling gave the home side the lead in the 12th minute with a cool finish after exchanging passes. this evening. Thank you so much for joining us. As you can see, we're bringing you this live bulletin from behind me. You can see is the Kenyatta International Convention Center. Quite beautiful Nairobi CBD is at night, and of course we are enjoying the view. I hope you did enjoy the view as well. This is NTV Weekend Edition. Our sign language interpreter this evening was Flora Atieno. My name is Zainab Ismail. Good evening.
This is NTV.